Simonetta, thanks so much for coming on and joining us for an episode of People Just Like You. This is a passion project that I started a couple years ago to really just open up conversations with other people and get this little window into people's lives to see what they're all about, what their challenges, excitements, inspirations, struggles are, and really come to this understanding that we're all people, just like one another. And we have similarities, we have differences, and all of it should be celebrated. And the one of the aims of this project is to kind of just again open up this window into the life of someone else that you might not have the chance to talk through, through our filter bubbles and social media, just our friend and acquaintance and family circles. So, Simonetta, would you mind giving us a little bit of an intro of yourself?
Sure. My name is Simonetta. I'm 44 years old. I've lived half my life in Germany, the other half in the United States. I have had a career that took some wild jumps from accounting and finance to leading sales teams, to leading product teams, to leaving my very comfortable corporate paycheck and starting my own business, doing coaching and trainings on the topic of leadership. It's really important work for me because I'd like to see more powerful leaders in the world that start tackling the things that we as humanity have to tackle, like protecting our planet, like making more just and fair relationship with each other as people between genders, sexual orientations, races, nationalities, religious belief systems. I think we have a lot in common. We also have beautiful, unique individual traits that are worth celebrating, and I love the diversity of that. And I'd like to just create spaces for people to be more in that kind of worldview, a place where people can speak and curiously explore with each other, even if they may have very different starting points of view, very different political beliefs. I think there's value in exploring curiously, and I'd like to open those spaces. That's what I do.
Yes.
I love kids. I love dancing. I love good food. I like traveling. I think that's enough about me. And I like art.
Yes, yes. I'm sensing the values of creativity, exploration, and adventuring, curiosity, as you mentioned, and just connection as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. A connection, really, also in the sense of we're all interconnected. It's kind of funny because we all experience the world from our own individualistic viewpoint. And I think, especially in the United States, there's a strong value put on the individual. And I mean, it's no wonder you kind of go through the world and you look at the world with your eyes and with your mind and with your life experiences and with your emotional setup, right? And it's maybe not intuitive to understand that we are in fact all connected, that we are also connected to our natural environment, to the animals and plants around us, to our surroundings. But when we kind of start to really tune in to what is happening around us and what effects this has on our body and our emotions, and you start seeing that things are actually way more connected than you might realize. And that's something that I have been exploring and also using in my professional life. In product work, for example, you work with all kinds of different people. You work with salespeople, you work with customers, you work with investors, you work with software engineers, you work with marketers, you work with legal departments, you work with your peers in the product team, and all of it at the end of the day is about relationships with people who might not think like you but have a valuable contribution to make. And all the success I've ever had in launching products or in scaling products or in building out teams has been resting on this foundation of realization that we're all in this together. That doesn't mean that we don't disagree, quite the opposite, right? Like that we find a respectful way to be with each other and share our different perspectives on something to see something new emerge. There's real power in this. We dare to go there. So that's something I just like to share with more leaders around the world, to encourage them to really sit with the discomfort of that person that you find irritating right now because they might not come from the same place you are.
Yeah.
To see what you actually share. How might you find a common vision? How might you find some common ground to then see, oh, you're going about this way because you have learned this, and that. Oh, I can see how that's valuable. Maybe I wouldn't do it that way. Here's where I'm coming from. I'm doing it this way because I've experienced this, and that. Oh, okay. I never saw it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a dialogue possible. And I find that exciting.
Yeah.
And as a coach, I absolutely love to kind of help people start to find this in themselves first, and then start portraying this out into their relationships they have with everyone else around them.
Yeah. That sounds like very like ripple oriented, like just something that produces a compounding and growing effect to start with oneself and then kind of carry that learning and openness forward into other interactions. As you were talking about working with leaders, and also just fascinating how you've had so much exposure to different areas of life and of business, and have come to this point of getting into coaching and working with leaders. One thought, just curiosity on the mind, having played a bit of leadership myself and worked with leaders, I wonder, do people bring up the idea of like, well, I'm so busy, I don't have enough time to go deep and get in touch with myself. My to-do list is like this, and tomorrow it's going to be like that, and the day after is like that. So I just need to knock things out, problem solve, and move on. Does that come up?
Yeah, of course, people come with that challenge, right?
Mm.
And you don't have to do any of this inner work.
Mm.
But life will present the same kind of lessons to you over and over and over until you sit down and you start learning and you change something. And that change most effectively starts with something you change within yourself.
Mm.
And once you start taking that first step and you see the results of that in your daily life, of investing 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at pockets of time during the day. And honestly, everyone has those 2 to 5 minutes. If I'm ahead of some challenging meeting, let's say I'm going into a high stakes negotiation, or I'm going into a one-on-one conversation, either with my manager or with my direct report, and I know it's going to be something where a difficult topic has to be addressed, I can take 2 minutes to root myself in an energy of, oh, across the table from me, there's another human being. They come to this conversation maybe scared, maybe uncomfortable, maybe shaking inside.
Mm.
They also have their hopes and dreams, just like me. We're just people.
Yeah.
And then start from there. How can you respectfully and nice with each other address whatever, And by taking that moment, it literally takes like 30 seconds to take a few deep breaths, really center yourself into your own body. Maybe like silently think, how amazing I'm alive. What a wonder, It's like over millions of years, this planet has evolved to today's moment. And here I am, I'm breathing, I'm alive.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not especially looking forward to this challenging conversation I'm about to have, but in principle, like, what a privilege to be alive. What a privilege to be healthy enough to have this conversation. And having enough courage to face this conversation. I can do this. And then you go in. And with that mindset, chances are, maybe not that first time you do it, maybe you won't see that big shift just then, but if you keep doing it, the third, the fourth, the fifth conversation is going to be different.
Mm.
If it didn't work, amazing. I have a learning opportunity here. What went wrong? Where did this rile me up? What in me came up that had me lose focus and get angry or get defensive or get sad or whatever? And next time you try again. And step by step by step, you start being a different person. And I find that's exciting.
Yeah.
And any leader has those 2 minutes. Like I've had my super packed, super full schedule myself. Like my meeting day was stacked from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. all every day.
Hmm.
I had those 2 minutes. If I could make time for them, you have time for that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And in those 2 minutes, in that 30 seconds, it's just coming back. You mentioned before, like feeling the connection with the world and things outside of yourself, and building, just coming back to this moment of appreciation of
Right.
where we are, what we're doing, all the things that are happening, like blood circulating and all these billions of cells doing their thing and keeping us alive and moving forward, and building from that appreciation and empathy for others, that we're all kind of moving forward in our own ways, and we're all trying to kind of make it through, and also struggling a little bit with our own feelings of uh, not being enough, of being busy and struggling and other things, and without taking that moment to just center and calm down a little bit, then that energy can go out and kind of interact with others' energy, and stack up, and just kind of compound into a negative direction, as
Or
opposed to letting some
positive
things
one.
go.
You
Mm.
choose, you know? I mean, you can go into that challenging conversation thinking, amazing. I'm just looking at this as my lab experiment. What will happen if, you know?
Mm.
And you intentionally pull up your curiosity. You intentionally pull up your um, willingness to listen and just be with that person. You choose to do that. You can choose to do that every conversation you're going to enter, every meeting you're going to enter, every negotiation you're going to start. And I think as you practice this over time, and you keep trying and keep trying and you keep, and with anything you learn, you're going to like fall flat on your face the first 5 times you try, you know?
Hmm.
Don't give up. Just see what happens if you keep this up. See what shifts, see what changes. There's a world of experiences to have out there if you look at it that way. Like every
Yeah.
single one of these can be like a place of connection, can be a place of insight, can be a place of we're in this together. It doesn't have to be a fight.
Yeah. This sounds like a lot of like wisdom and just reflected understanding of the dynamics, interpersonal, intrapersonal dynamics. So, Simonetta, you talked about just these different experiences that you had in business, going in these different places, and in the business and sales and product and many different areas, and that you were really looking, you made this change to go into coaching and working with leaders. And I'm curious, what is your journey to this moment of becoming a leadership coach been like?
It's been bumpy and exciting.
Can
Like
imagine.
anything you start. There was a lot of doubt and also a bit of anxiety and also excitement and also confidence because I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm good at, but it was a wild mix of things
Hmm.
um, initially. And I think that's normal. And every new project I've started kind of started in that place. And eventually you kind of like sort out your path forward. What's been super nice about it is to have the time to really think about and feel into what it is I want to do. And to be in a place where I don't need anybody's permission to explore that. Because I'm
Mm.
not answering to a boss. I don't have a deadline I need to meet. I don't have an externally set goal that needs to be in the book by end of Q2. Otherwise, we're going to, I don't know, cut staff or have to find other ways to save cost and or blah blah blah, any of these things that you might meet in the business world. Like I
Yeah.
had the luxury to just really ask myself, what do I want? And go after that every
Yeah.
single day. And
That
that's
sounds
been super
wonderful.
fun.
Wonderfully freeing.
Yeah, it's been a lot more free, a lot more creative, a lot more trusting in myself, and honestly, a lot more fun. And I'm not saying that I have like perfect days, that every day I trust in myself, every day I'm just like, every moment of my day I'm super happy. That's of course not the case, but
Mhm.
in general, the direction I'm moving in with this is one where the amount of days I go to bed smiling because I think I did exactly what I want to do in the world today is increasing. And that is like a super gratifying feeling to know that you're doing the things you love to do, the things that align with my values, that are in line with the thing I want to see more of in the world, and to see it working. That's really fun.
That's fantastic. I think there are a lot of people and myself as well admire that, just making that shift, giving up. I think at one point you kind of touched on like the cushy corporate security, salary, everything, recognition, everything that came along with that, and going out and pursuing your own path. And I think alongside that, in admiration, may also come thoughts of turning back inward and thinking like, but I couldn't do that. Could I do that? I wouldn't know how to do that. How would I do that? So I wonder if you have any thoughts or perspective or experiences and how you went about making that shift that could help answer some of those questions or provide this path for people out there that want something like that but are a bit hesitant, unsure.
Well, first of all, I will say no one has to make a shift as drastic as I did.
Hmm.
You don't have to leave that safe, secure corporate job entirely behind to then start a new thing. That's something I could do because the luxury of that corporate job led to some savings.
Mhm.
If you don't have that, you don't have to make a drastic change. You can stay in your job and just start doing your inner work. You can start doing the work to understand, what are my values? What is it I'd like to do? What kind of life would I would like to live? Who might those people be that live that life I would like to have? I can start orienting towards that. I can start maybe incorporating little pieces and aspects of that into my current role, right? And job craft my role
Mm.
into a space that's even 5% more like what I'd like to do, to start building some expertise, to start building some confidence, and then just try to find ways to make that slice of things that has your heart smile bigger and bigger. And that would be another way to do it. That's not the way I chose to do. But I think what's also important is to recognize that any big shift like this, any big transition like that, will always feel scary. And I mean, you know this also from starting a new job in the corporate world, right? Like you came from a place where you understood the rules. Maybe you didn't like it, but you kind of like knew what that was all about. You knew how to navigate that space. You knew how to make a living in it. Now there's this new job, right? New peers, new colleagues, new boss, new direct reports, new challenge, new market, new customers, new everything. You have to understand everything from scratch.
Mhm.
And I think everyone who is now in a leadership role, who has, like, let's say more than 10, 15 years of work experience, has gone through that a number of times. You know the feeling, you know the excitement it also brings, right? But it's the same thing, whether you start a new job somewhere else or you start working for yourself, everything is new, right? Like out of sudden, there is no boss anymore that tells me how to do my job, right? There is no peer anymore that I can ask and say, hey, how do you fill out that screen, right? Show me.
Yeah.
You just have to figure it out yourself, but you also know that you've learned everything in life so far. You learned how to walk, you learned how to talk, you learned how to be in relationship with other people, you learned how to smile, you learned how to cook, you learned other languages, you learned your expertise in whatever field you have worked in so far. All of these things you didn't know when you were like just starting this journey
Hmm.
of life. So you are perfectly capable to figure things out, and you don't have to do it by yourself, right? You can work with people who might go through the same thing with you at the same time. Just find some peers that um struggle with the same things you struggle with, that you can talk to and say, hey, how are you navigating this? How are you feeling about this? Oh, you're also feeling that. Oh, I guess that's normal. um I think everyone has the creativity and the resourcefulness and the tools and the ability to relate to others to find the things that help. um And yes, it's going to be scary at times. Just know that this is part of the deal, but then no risk, no fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Growth is where it's uncomfortable, and your learning is where it's uncomfortable. And you look back at this point in life at some point and you're just laughing because you're like, okay, I remember how scared I felt at that point in time. And then I became good at, you name the thing that you're already good at, right?
Yeah.
You started learning an instrument, like your first lesson. I'm sure you weren't really able to play a full tune. Yeah, no one can.
Yeah.
You didn't have that expectation of yourself either. Why do you think when you start your own business that from day on you have the perfect answers to everything? That's just not reasonable to think of yourself.
Yeah.
But you can learn from day one. You try something, it fails, great. It's not done this way, must be done another way, and you just keep trying.
Yeah. That is so true. And it's easy to forget how many things we have learned over the course of our lives and how often we are going into new situations and orienting and understanding things and building bit by bit, and that it is a bit by bit building. I love this
Right,
Japanese phrase, shuhari, where you first shu, or you learn the rules, you're just doing the thing, and then you ha, or you start to expand beyond the rules and bend the rules, and then you re, and you kind of transcend or move beyond the rules. And this happens throughout our lives. I guess if you're stepping into something else, you mentioned a good point of talk to people that are living lives that you find interesting, that you might want to explore. Start to explore things without even having to leave your comfortable full-time job. I think it could also be pressure for people when they start to think, I want something different, that everything needs to change immediately and we need to move to this better state ASAP. So it's either leave the job or stay in the job and everything sucks. But this somewhere in between where you start to make changes, you mentioned the phrase job crafting, start to reevaluate. Can I express the values that are important? First, what are the values that are important to me? Second, can I express more of these through adjusting what I'm doing currently? If not, what other ways can I start to move towards living a life more aligned with values? Um, but not being afraid to start to take that first step. Doesn't have to be everything. I think that's a really good advice to continuously put out there to the world, that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. There is a path forward, but there are some very important starting points, as you mentioned, of just coming to an appreciation of who we are and what we're doing, of building empathy for others, of understanding ourselves and asking ourselves questions like those that you asked yourself. Who am I? What do I like doing? What do I want my life to be about? What are my values?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, when you speak to somebody, like let's say you want a career in coaching, right? Um, and there is a coach that you know who is really successful today, speak to them about how they got started. I bet
Mhm.
their first steps were equally scared,
Mm.
equally full of doubts. Enrolling their first clients was hard. You know, there's there's a learning curve for all of us in everything we do. And of course, when you look at the end result of somebody who's like super successful at something, like I don't know, Tiger Woods at golfing, you know, and he makes it look easy to like hit that golf ball super far in a line towards that little hole in the ground, right? And you're like, I have no idea how to even swing that golf club. But I mean, this guy didn't know first day he stood on a golf course ever.
Mhm.
It's like practice and practice and practice and failing and failing and failing and learning from that and just sticking with it until you get really good at it. Any athlete you will look at has hours and hours of practice dedicated to becoming as good as they are at something.
Yeah.
And anyone who has successfully navigated their startup story has done a lot of things that in hindsight they say, oh, if I had just done this faster, this different, whatever, you know, but they didn't know at the time. And if you only look at the very successful end results, you don't see the kind of like stumbling first steps they took.
Mhm.
But every single one, like famous rock star, famous athlete, famous business person, amazing coach, you name it, they started small with some first step.
Yep. So true. So true, and a good reminder to just to ease some of that self-pressure that
Yeah,
we can all build up, especially in this individualistic society where it's us and the world. We are responsible for ourselves. We've got to make it. We've got to make it. It's scarcity out there. It's a good reminder to just kind of center and calm and see that success doesn't happen immediately. You don't have to make changes immediately. There are incremental steps that we can take to move towards a more fulfilling, happy, value-oriented life.
right. And every step that takes you in a direction that doesn't work is a gift because you learn it's not that, it's something else, you know, it's a signal.
Yeah. And that's okay. To
Yeah,
when you take a step and it doesn't work out, to have that mindset of checking in again, is this a direction that feels good? And if it's not, then not feeling like, well, seeing it as a gift, not that I've taken this step and I screwed up and I failed and I shouldn't take another one because I'm going to take another mistake. Like you mentioned, everything that we try and experiment with in life gives us an understanding of, do we like this? Do we not? But there are some times when it's just, maybe it is even a decent direction. It just might need to adjust our approach a little bit and try again. But another one of those things that can be intimidating and frustrating for people that are exploring, how do I make a change? How do I kind of evolve from my current state? As we get longer into our careers, can feel like there's more and more momentum and more at stake that's built up, that we're so successful in what we do, whatever else we do is not going to be at that level of success. So is it even worth it to try something
I would
different?
say not yet at that level of success. And if we keep going, it has a chance to get there. If we
Mm-hmm.
stop doing it, you will for sure never get there, right? That's for certain. But if you know about yourself that you absolutely love and enjoy something and you want to do more of it, and the first few attempts fail, you still know that this is the thing that you actually enjoy doing and that you love doing and that you care about. And doing other things that are not that will never bring as much joy, as much happiness, as much fulfillment as sticking with trying something that at first feels hard and then eventually becomes easier.
Yeah. Great encouragement. And I want to come back to something that you mentioned as we were chatting and setting this up, was is that you love helping people step into their power. Can you tell me about what that means to you?
Yeah, what that means to me is to be with people as they discover those things that actually make their heart smile. Someone who is in their power to me is somebody who is clear about what they care about and how they want to be and what impact they want to have in their world, and who's starting to take action in that direction and starting to see this kind of like virtuous circle build momentum, that you are doing the things you value, you are bringing about the change you want to see, you are having the first glimpses of understanding that you do create that impact you want to create, and you keep building and building and building, and eventually it'll become just like second nature to you. But this is really you acting from a place of fully trusting your powers, fully in creative, resourceful mode to make something happen you want to see that makes your heart smile. And to be with people in the process of finding out what that even is for them, because it's not the same thing for all of us. And then to start seeing them take those first steps and really come to a place where you see them smile more. Like some of my clients, I see them in their first coaching session and I see where they start out with. And then over the course of time, you watch their progress. They become different people. They tell you, right? I had a client today who I've been coaching for 6-7 sessions over the last 4 months or so. She said to me, this is working. I'm starting to feel like a different person.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, yay, thank you. This is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
There is this person who came from a place of, I don't know whether this is working. I might not be worth it. I might not have what it takes, a lot of saboteur voices in her own head, to a place of, oh, yes, this stuff is there and now it's not going to go away entirely, but I also have the choice to really tap into my inner energy and all the things that give me joy. And when I'm with that, I see a massive shift. I'm going to my boss and I get what I want. I hear out of a sudden that people say to me, oh, my ideas are valuable. I want to hear more of them. When you see clients bring this back to me, then I am happy because I know this is exactly what I wanted for them. This is what they want for themselves. And mission accomplished. Here's someone who started walking, right? Who's starting to build that inner power and confidence.
Yeah.
And
That's
that to me
wonderful.
is super nice to be a part of.
That's fantastic. Ah,
Yeah.
and to get that feedback of somebody acknowledging themselves, that they can see the change themselves. It's hard for it. We can't see ourselves. Even when we're looking in the mirror, we're seeing an inverted image of ourselves. So we're always processing things through our bias in our lenses and things that color what we see. But for somebody to acknowledge and say, I feel like I'm becoming a new person. I can see this change arising and opening up. That has got to feel so rewarding and inspiring.
Yeah. And the key word here is feel, they actually
Mm.
feel like a different person.
Mhm.
They feel more in their power. They feel more in that energy of creative can do. I can take the next step, right? I don't know where it's gonna go. Maybe it might not be like an immediate success, but I know I can take it. And if this one fails, I'll try again.
Mhm.
versus, oh, life is happening to me. I have no control over it. This person's annoying me. I am not being listened to. I am not worth it. I'm not good enough. Passivity
Yeah.
stand. And
Yeah.
so I love to shift people more towards that resourceful, can do inner energy.
Yeah. Well, I can certainly sense that you are very capable of doing that and have helped and will help a lot of people to do that as well. And I hope that people watching along will, if you haven't considered coaching or working with a thought partner, um, a mentor, an advisor, a coach to help you start to make these changes. It's difficult for us to make changes on our own, to hold ourselves accountable, to think through things, to hear the, as you mentioned, saboteurs and limiting beliefs that are causing us to stay stuck, to stay passive, rather than to step into our power, even realize what our power is. Um,
Right.
as a coach as well, I definitely hope and encourage and invite people to explore coaching if you haven't yet. And so go check out Simonetta or others, or if you know coaches, go and have a conversation, see what it actually feels like. So Simonetta, coming to the end of our interview here, I've got one last question for you, which comes from a previous interviewee, Noelle. And she asks, what will you choose today in order to make a better tomorrow?
More of that can do energy. And I have a guest coming today, and
Mhm.
just being present with her and seeing what kind of fun thing we can do together today.
Amazing. That's the most powerful things are simple, straightforward. Just
Yeah.
being present and more can-do energy.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you
This
so
was
much for
lovely.
I'm glad. I'm glad to hear. I love doing these. I It always seems like people coming from these also feel a bit more like inspired and realize kind of like what's happening in their lives, and just in many ways like reinforcing decisions that they've taken, reflections that they've made, realizations that they're coming to. So I'm glad to hear that. And I think as well, just opening up a window into another's life. You shared a lot of really like insightful, useful, and just from my perspective, true. Um, just wise truths in this interview. So I thank you so much as well for coming on and being open.
Thank you, Gabe. It's been a pleasure.